If it was like Manny, for example, like something that's like bare bones and like has no character, yeah, you could totally do a monkey. Yeah, maybe. Sort of. So yeah, as you guys block it out, make sure you keep your outliner open because it's going to be useful for selecting the weapon control. If you guys want, I'm not going to do this, but to make it easier for yourself, you can select the locators you're not going to be touching, like the ones that are completely constrained, for example, and just hide them on a display layer just so you don't accidentally select them and, you know, keyframe them. So we'll just select everything right now. Make sure, yeah, no geo is selected, and just set a key on frame 1, which we've already done. And so we'll just start posing it out. So we're going to treat this more like a gameplay animation. I still want you guys to pick a camera by the end, but you don't have to do like different play blasts of like different angles and stuff like that, okay? So if the hammer kind of disappears from the grip, you can just pull it back with the main hand here. So like I mentioned to some of you, make sure your first pose already shows that he's exerting effort to like keep the hammer up, even if he's strong. So we're gonna give him like a nice wide stance. And usually you want to get them really low as well. And again, as you pose, make sure you check from all sides. Almost there. Yeah, question, Vic. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll just keep that open so you can see. And yeah, like I said, always pose the feet first, the COG, because that's basically going to be your core movement. And we'll have the weight kind of more over his front leg, sort of. And knees are going to be bent here. And we'll rotate this out a bit too. Yeah, so something like that. And especially for this assignment, when you guys are posing out, make sure you pose the hands last, because it's kind of just going to follow the basic posture of your spine and that sort of thing. So that's why it's nice with IK. You can like roughly place it just so you can kind of get the position of where it's going to be, but then don't worry about like the fiddling details of it. Because as you pose the rest of the character out, it's going to just stay where it is, right? So you can kind of just get the posture roughly there. If the hands are messed up, that's totally fine. So that's why we have these controllers, right? So if this hand is not really working well and I need to rotate it, rotate the right hand, right? And then go to that weapon controller and then just position it how you need it to be. And also make sure you guys have your elbows. So basically the elbows are going to be these little things, these little pull vectors, and they're going to control like the angle of the elbow here. So make sure you get them out just so you can see them. And yeah, again, don't try to finically pose out the hammer because you have to bend the spine first. So get your spine posture and like the shape you want it to be first before you go ahead and start tweaking. So I'm going to have him forward and hunching a little bit like this. And I'll have him looking ahead. And then we'll have the shoulders a bit down. This is basically to show like the hammer's already affecting him, so just a slight drop. And then you kind of want to find the spot where you're not breaking the grip too much. So maybe the hammer is something like this. And then again, weapon controller. You can just translate it back. And again, you can find the sweet spot where you can bend it, and then that way you can find your pose again. Yeah, basically you want to line up the thumb, because the fingers you can repose so it like fits perfectly, but it's mostly this curve of the thumb to the index finger here that you want to pose to. Let's see if I can get it a bit further here. Yeah, something like that. You can check your pose from all sides. It's a little off balance. I'm just going to move it over slightly. So because it's IK, I'm going to select the COG and the IK controller here. Just move it a bit back. Just so this leg is a bit more 90. And then also I'm going to move this knee outward a little bit. There we go. A little bit better. And also move him a little over as well. So something more like that. And since we only need to do it once, we'll just slightly pose these fingers now, just over the hammer. Once you get this one pose where it's gripping around, you probably won't have to do any animation to it. Again, you want to make sure it's actually on. And avoid the crashing when you can. Something like that. Selecting. Oh, because I'm selecting the... Yeah, so generally you do broad strokes with the fingers, and then you can adjust each one individually after the fact. That's why oftentimes, even in game animation, you just have one good hand pose. You can use it for everything. And this one's a little too far. Let's pull it back. And yeah, you can refine it after, but just get something that looks believable. Okay, so first pose. Again, I recommend you guys use reference for this. I'm just going to speed through, because I've done this a few times. So we're going to have this is basically like our idle pose, and then we're going to go into our anticipation of the lift. So I'm going to go ahead a few frames. So again, if this is heavy, you got to think of it that it's going to take more time. So instead of doing like 5 frames or something, I'm going to add like 3. So go frame 8. And again, pose the COG. So I'm going to have him go down first. And again, just pose the body first, not the hammer. Have a bit of the head dragging down. A little bit of the shoulder. A little bit of the shoulder. And then drop the hammer a bit. Also mind the leg crashing through here. So always try to rotate it out a little bit. And when you're posing, make sure that the hammer, like especially when you're doing transitions like this, the hammer is lower here. So that's because it's the heaviest part. So that's what's pulling down. So even if he's in full control of the hammer, it's still going to be pulling down the most of him at the head, because the head is the heaviest part, right? And let's just say this is the pose here. Not too bad. Something like that. And we'll hold it for a few frames. And again, make sure you set your graph to auto so you don't get the wobble. Now it's like holding on that pose, not moving. And then next key pose. You guys remember which one I should do now for this one? So I'm going to go into the lift. So what's the pose I need? Yeah, pretty much. So we're going to go into the lift. So let's say about 20. Just throwing a guess out here. So we're going to have him come up. And again, obviously you guys do your own animation. Don't copy mine. Again, make sure the weight is over the leg that's planted. So the one that you're going to be lifting onto. Bless you. Again, make sure you rotate the COG so it's going to be over the leg. Make sure the front is balanced as well. And once that looks balanced, you can then adjust the other leg as well. And again, dragging. So to make something look heavier, you basically want to move it as little as possible, just to show like how heavy it is. But oftentimes, if you don't have the frames to make it look heavy, then you add it in the posing. The posing will make it look heavier, even if the timing doesn't communicate that. So usually the animator way of thinking about it is that if you don't have time to show it in the recovery, then you do it in the anticipation and you're posing before that. So you just kind of pick which you want. Like either you overshoot it and sell the weight afterwards, or you have it take a long time to get to that weight. And we're also going to pose the head looking down at the hammer. And this is where we're going to create that bow shape in the shoulders. Basically show the pull of the hammer. And we'll probably want to move this over a bit too. Get the hand back. And yeah, again, just like with straight legs, you want it to be pretty much straight, but not actually straight, so it's popping. So just slightly like that. And again, lead with the lighter part of the hammer first. Oh, you know what? I'll have him look forward. And look up like this. So Thor has a habit of like getting turkey necked. You guys can see like his chin is like basically his neck. So make sure you rotate this neck controller a little bit, just to kind of reduce that. You know what, we'll probably keep the leg down during the beginning here. So we'll have an in-between eventually, but I just want to make note of that. Yeah. And then we'll go forward here. So our next key pose. So this is basically going to be the anticipation of the hammer slam. So I'm going to basically slam it down in front of him, and he's going to step forward and through the slam itself. Okay. So again, I'll give it a long time, maybe 30 frames, something like that. And again, pose the COG first. So it needs to go forward, and this front foot is going to be pretty much like this. So kind of like when we did our run, very similar. So this is pretty much our stretch pose here. And this one, since we want to make it as heavy as possible, we're going to actually hold it for quite a while. So instead of having the leg kick out right away, I'm going to make that happen during the moving hold instead. And again, make sure your knee is like far away so it's not like conflicting. And again, make sure these poses are as balanced as possible, because then it'll make the weight a lot easier to convey. Something like that. And yeah, you want to just find the IK hand. I think it's that one there. Yeah. So again, you guys notice like I'm not even using any other controllers right now except the one, just because I haven't needed to adjust it yet. So we're doing pretty good. So I'll just put it here just to get out of the way, and I'll fix the pose after. I just want to get the spine working here. So like in the Animator Survival Kit, basically the spine should be lifting kind of more straight, because he's exerted the effort to lift it up, so he doesn't need to exert too much right now. So we're going to get it somewhat like this. And we keep the head kind of like this, something like that. And again, always prioritize the main hand controller here. Yeah, question, Dean? No? Okay. Can't tell with stretching sometimes. And again, make sure your hammer is following a decent path, so it's coming straight behind. And this is the part where you need your elbows to be kind of obeying properly. So when you bend it down like this, you can see the elbows like way back here. It should be in front of where the tension is. So like for example, if I'm going like this and I'm swinging forward, where are my elbows pointing at? Going forward and outward, right? So if you look from the front, it's looking like this. It's kind of like this grip here. And then from the side, you see it's like aiming this way. So pretty much once I get to here, oh, and then you can have like, and then come down, right? So that's kind of what we're going for. So again, make sure you manage your elbows. It's kind of like a 45-degree angle or so. And again, if you can't find it, turn on wireframe. It's usually hidden in something. And again, you can see my hammer, my secondary arm is kind of messed up. So at this point, I'm going to reset the weapon control here, like the rotations, translations, and stuff, just to get it back. And yeah, so it looks like I need to move the prop controller, so I'm going to kill the rotations. Pose it properly. So right now, if you guys notice, it's kind of overlapping with the other grip. So your grip does choke up usually when you're like at the peak of like strain, but we don't want it to like completely overlap, so that's why we have this weapon controller here, so now we can just translate it across. So probably about there, something like that. And then what we can do to compensate is just adjust the hammer lower, something like that. And again, make sure you manage your elbows. something more like that. And then I'll have the head aiming a bit more forward. Yeah, do the best you can with crashing. Get the elbows out of the way. If it's like slightly crashing, it's okay. Just do your best. And now you have him going into a pose here. Again, make sure it's set to auto. Oops. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I save pretty much after every pose, just because I don't want to lose anything. And a lot of the weight, so this looks a little weighty already, but most of the weight is going to come from your in-betweens. So I think the timing is generally working. I think this might be too fast, so I might actually slow it down just right now. Give it about 5 frames. And again, I don't know these numbers, I'm just trying stuff out, seeing how it feels. And again, when you guys look at your reference, you can use that timing and try to figure out like, oh, I want this to be around this amount of frames, right? I hope it didn't crash. No, it's okay. It's doing stuff. So weird. Well, I just saved right before, so I'll just kill it. Awesome. Let's see if it'll let me. Yeah, something like that. Obviously, we can adjust the timing after the fact. Want to get the main key poses in. The next pose, obviously, is the slam. So he's going to step forward here. I'm going to add a hold here just for some like hang time for appeal and weight. So maybe I'll do the hold for, I don't know, this long. And just make sure it's not moving. And then we'll slam, let's say, I don't know, 51, something like that. Slower. And so easiest thing to do for the slam, make sure you plant that foot and try to figure out where you want it to be. So you can kill the rotate X, and then you have it perfectly flat with the translate Y at 0. And then once you have the rough position, then you can swing the hammer down, or the body down. And basically what's going to happen, like I've told you guys on a lot of your drawovers, that the foot's going to get there first, then the weight of the character is going to come down on that foot, then the spine is going to bend to swing the hammer over, and then the hammer is going to swing after the fact. So if you follow that rhythm, everything mechanically will be working. And you can see the back leg here is kind of like broken a little bit, like the posture of it. So you can just add a bit of roll. There we go. Something like that. And again, make sure you swing wide so you can have, there we go, a wide stance here. Basically because you're going to slam right in the front, or I'm going to slam right in the front of it. So, and again, make sure the weight is proper. So we have it, won't have it too far forward so the leg is bent, because we want room to go forward and down a bit, so we'll have it like somewhere like here. Just like that. And maybe I make the foot a bit more forward, so more of a right angle. Something like that. And then same thing with the spine here. So now adjust this angle. Making sure we have a nice C curve here, contrast from this one here, and then also the in-between, which is going to be a reverse C curve to show the weight transferring over. So with this one here, the shoulders are going to come down. And let's grab that hand again, just to get the rough hammer position, rotate it forward, and it's going to be down here. Now at the end, this is pretty much where you're going to be sliding the grip. As you can see, it's crashing into here, so we need to change this. So if we go back to our outliner again, where is it here? So if we want to move the whole hammer, we have that original prop controller for the main hand here, and that's what we're going to slide forward slightly. Again. Because you have this main controller making the hammer follow and everything like that, you don't want to prioritize the secondary hand first. So if you need to make any adjustments, always adjust the main hand first and then do the other hand afterwards to make it work. And again, the elbows here, so it's going to be reversed, so you can't have it up like this. It needs to be down like this. So when you slam down something, usually it's going to go wide the other way and your elbow is going to be more inward. Right? Kind of like when you're doing a golf swing. The videos will be recorded. Have a good night, man. Yeah, see you next week. And then now we have to do this other hand, so easy enough. We just grab the prop controller, get the rotation back. And that's why if you place the weapon control for this hand in basically the right spot, when you do the rotation again to change it, it'll show in like the proper spot. And then you just have to change the position of this. And the last thing we need to do is fix that elbow. So again, have it be a bit more down. I might pull this out a bit. Now, there's an interesting thing that happens when you slam something down like this. Usually, you can't, because of our setup right now, if you slam something down, your hands are going to be broken, or your wrists are going to be broken. So what you can do is, because of this setup, you can rotate your wrists so your palms are pointing upward a bit more, and that will relieve tension in your forearm. So it's not going to be so painful once you slam something down. So we'll do that here. Again, right hand prop controller, just to rotate this a little, and then we'll translate the weapon to make sure it's back on it. And you can see now the forearm has less tension, the elbow's not as broken, and then that means we have room to pull out the elbow bit. And on top of that too, make sure it's following the clear path here, so we can just rotate this here. And again, make sure it's contacting the ground. So something like that. There we go. Yeah, so we need to do it on this one too. So we'll rotate it slightly. And then since this is controlling everything, we need to go back and move the weapon itself. So again, left-hand prop control, just to rotate it back. Just enough, because we want it to like contact the ground. So a little bit of crashing is okay here. I'll just do a slight elbow check there. There you go. Pretty easy, right? And I think what we'll do, because this is not moving forward enough for my liking, it's kind of just going like straight and down. So I'm just going to translate everything forward a bit. So make sure it's not just the feet and the COG, because we have the whole characters in IK and the hands as well. So you just have to select this main one, because this other one is controlled by the other stuff here. And again, you can just click the Translate Z. Now this will be perfectly forward, and we can just move it forward. But I'm going to make sure this leg is close to where it is. Obviously this is like too stretched, so just pull it back slightly. And then add some roll to compensate. Something like that. So it's going to move a little bit, and that's fine from the slam, but we can adjust it and polish and whatnot. We'll save. Again, make sure it's set to auto. And then we'll have the slam, the weight resolve a bit after, so maybe about 60 frames, something like that. I'll just set a key for reference, so I know.